Hello, welcome to another episode of the Flamise RPR podcast. My name is Flamise RPR and I'm your podcast host. Trust this meets you well. If you are, thank God, thanks be to God. If you are not, I pray Providence takes absolute control of the situation and brings you a lasting solution. Without wasting much of our time, let me introduce the topic we are to discuss on the episode today. We are discussing vandalism, and this is the part 2, and it's titled Vandalism Abroad, Law, Order, and Incarceration. If you are very much following the Flamise RPR podcast via its info channels on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and on Instagram, you would know that I earlier announced that we'll be having an abroad-based correctional officer to answer our question concerning this topic. Before we begin to discuss this topic from the angle we want to today, let me do a quick recap of the first part of the previous episode of this topic. On the previous episode, which is Vandalism Part 1, I gave some definitions of the word vandalism. Before that, I promised to invite professionals to aid in giving us an extensive and nuanced view of the topic. Then our guest, whom happens to be a distinguished lawyer, Barrister Batlomi Ekene Ukafo, was introduced, his profile was read, and an interview began proper. A couple of questions were asked, and he answered all from the legal aspects as a lawyer and also gave us his life experiences. He gave us a legal insight as in how Nigerian laws define and penalize vandalism, and also described how enforcement works, how enforcement of this law works in practice. He also shared perspectives on moving beyond fines and punishment towards repair-oriented solutions such as plea bargain that involve proper compensation, community involvement, and rehabilitation. He also cited causes of vandalism in the society and psychological drivers behind vandalism, which includes feelings of neglect, anger, and injustice. He also highlighted real-world consequences of vandalism, which include economic loss and the emotional toll on victims. He also opined that inasmuch as people trust punitive and restorative approaches to solve the problem of vandalism, the law court should disagree to the option of giving offenders the option of fine and also plea bargain, but also punish offenders so that others can learn from that. He also offered potential solutions to the problem such as education and awareness. He stressed that the youth should be engaged in workshops that foster respect for public and private property. He also stressed on a legal reform as of how the law court should treat offenders convicted of vandalism. Then he also advised property owners to protect their property via making structural fortification and mounting of CCTV cameras to aid in capturing images for suspect identification. He decried on how law enforcement agents, particularly the police, aren't doing much to investigate crimes such as vandalism in the society, and urged them to do better. He ended by warning the youth to stay away from crime. He also gave his social media handles and was let go. The phone call lasted 1 hour, 21 minutes, and after that, a Vox Pop session followed where some members of the public gave answers to the following questions. 1. What comes to your mind when you hear the word vandalism? 2. Why do you think people engage in vandalism? 3. What should be the consequences of someone who commits vandalism? 4. Have you or someone you know ever been a victim of vandalism? 5. How did it affect you? I ended the episode with a brief summary of the responses from the lawyer, whom happens to be our guest for that, and then made some acknowledgements. Moving on, we would be discussing our topic from another angle, which sets to know how much work the law enforcement agencies, or should I say the correctional facilities, put into checkmating vandalism abroad. We are looking at how vandalism is being punished abroad, the approaches, the way it's being taken care of, and every other thing. A couple of questions we have on the show today would be answered by our guest. To help us understand this topic very well and to also answer our question, joining me via WhatsApp is Mr. Bayonle Arashi. I will proceed to read his profile. Bayonle Arashi is a visionary leader, mentor, and philanthropist with a passion of empowering the next generation. Bayonle Arashi was born in Ibadan, the capital city of Oyo State, Nigeria. He did his educational foundation began at the Government Technical College in Abeokuta, Nigeria, where he completed a 3-year vocational college program. His hands-on experience provided him the technical skills and problem-solving mindsets that would later play a crucial role in his professional life. Bayonle is committed to continuous learning and development. He holds professional certification in several areas, including information technology, equipping himself with the technical skills needed to navigate today's digital world, leadership, developing his leadership abilities to inspire and guide those around him, football management, acquiring specialized knowledge in football management and the renowned Football Business Academy in Switzerland, entrepreneurship in emerging economies, completing an online program from Harvard University. This further strengthened his entrepreneurial acumen, particularly in tackling challenges in developing markets. Now, Mr. Bayonle Arashi has an experience with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Bayonle's professional journey also includes his impactful work with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice as a correctional officer. He was deeply involved in managing individuals who were incarcerated, where his leadership abilities were honed in high-pressure environments. His time in the correctional system provided him with an invaluable understanding of the challenges young people face and deepened his commitments in making a positive impact in their lives. Bayonle Arashi also is the leader and founder of Midas Football Academy, transforming lives through soccer. With a strong belief in the power of mentorship and sports, Bayonle is now the founder and leader of Midas Football Academy, a non-profit organization dedicated to empowering young people through soccer education and mentorship. The academy focuses on providing opportunities for underprivileged youths to grow, both on and off the field, and is designed to shape the next generation of leaders. The mission of Midas Football Academy is clear: to instill the values of discipline, hard work, and perseverance, all while promoting educational and personal growth through soccer. Through soccer, Bayonle is helping young individuals discover their potential and build a future grounded in purpose and success. Bayonle's career and life are a testament to the power of betting on yourself, whether it's overcoming challenges, investing in his education, or leading with purpose. Bayonle is dedicated to helping others reach their full potential. His journey from Ibadan Nigeria to Texas, USA, reflects the transformative power of education, mentorship, and commitment and a commitment to creating opportunities for others to succeed. Bayonle continues to inspire and mentor young people both locally and globally, pushing forward his mission through Next Gen Mentorship Network and Midas Football Academy with a focus on leadership development, youth empowerment and social change. He remains steadfast in his commitment to making a meaningful difference in the world. Bayonle Arashi's story is not just one of personal success, it's a call to action for anyone ready to step into their purpose and make a lasting impact in their community. And that's our guest profile. I read quite lengthy. Yes, I know. Let's continue. Now, I asked a few questions to Mr. Bayonle Arashi via WhatsApp. I sent him the answers. I kept troubling him. I would really say a very big thank you to him because if it is by finances, I must say I am not up to the task when it comes to giving him money to answer my questions or any other thing. But he accepted me. Yes, he took my questions and he gave me answers via WhatsApp using voice notes. Then the voice note feature on WhatsApp, and I will play his answers, each and every one of them, to the topic, to the questions I sent him via WhatsApp. Okay, let's hear him as he speaks now.
Yes. Good day from here. My name is Bayonle Arashi, and I am replying to some of your questions about the podcast regarding vandalism and other interesting questions that you asked. So the next voice message will be answers to some of the questions, okay? All right.
Okay, now the first question I asked Mr. Bayonle Arashi is, how does vandalism impact the rehabilitation process for inmates, and what strategies can be used to address this behavior? This is the first question, and here is his answer.
Question was, how does vandalism impact rehabilitation process for inmates, and what strategies can be used to address this behavior? The answer to the question, to be very, very sincere with you, is that the system in the United States, especially in the state of Texas, is very, very different from every other part of the world. I believe one of the biggest challenges that other countries, or most countries in Africa and some in the Americas, South America, and maybe a very few parts of Europe are having is the rule of law. As you know, that the biggest challenge, I'm going to make it a little bit local because Nigerian, I'm saying Nigerian, you can take a Nigerian out of Nigeria, but you can't take the Nigerian in him out of him. I know for sure that the biggest challenge that we have as a nation is lack of rule of law. A lot of our leaders, or so-called leaders, let me put it that way, because I still respect anyone in the position of authority, because that is what God asks us to do, to respect everyone in authority and give them the honor that they deserve. But the biggest challenge that we are having as a nation is the lack of rule of law. If for us as a nation, as a continent at large in Africa, the biggest challenge that we've had is between the rich and the poor. the rule of law only works and punish people that do not have the resources, financial and human resource to be able to fight the law or deal with the law or deal with the system. So in the United States, in the context of your question, that how does vandalism impact the rehabilitation process for inmates? We do not have, to put it very clearly, a way that you think someone can vandalize an infrastructure of an agency. There are situations that happens once in a while. They are not very, very consistent. They happen only once in a while, maybe when there is a fight between inmates or when an inmate is aggressive, maybe responding to a crisis or wanting something, and they can actually make efforts or in a way for them to get attention by destroying item or by destroying a state property, so to say. And if you do that in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice way, there is a punishment for you, even though you are already incarcerated. So it is not something that you can just decide to do. So in a way, the answer to that question is if you commit any sort of vandalization, no matter how little it is, you get punished, and you get punished big, even though you are already incarcerated. You get punished with as much as having additional time added to your sentence. That's how bad it can be for you. So that's the answer to that question.
Okay, yeah, he answered our first question. So we move over to the second, which I asked him. What role do you think vandalism plays in indicating deeper issues within the correctional facility or societal context? Here is his answer.
The second question is, what role do you think vandalism plays in indicating deeper issues within the correctional facility or societal context? Well, again, in the case of Texas, where I served for almost 8 years with Texas Department of Criminal Justice, there is a rule of law within the country itself, within the state. And in between the agency, there is also a rule of law. So when you are incarcerated, you are under law. The officer, the staff, the correctional officer on duty is your first point of supervisor. And then the correctional officers have supervisors, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, assistant warden, and then the senior warden. So there is a chain of command that you have to go through. So vandalization is actually not a big issue in a correctional facility in the state of Texas. In the societal context, though, we have a lot of young people that are one of the reasons why I do what I do at the moment, because a lot of them, due to the extreme, and I call it extreme because that's what I see it as, extreme freedom that they have, they choose to not take advantage of the opportunity that the system made available to them. I always preach something about the importance of choices. In this country, you have two choices in front of you, including a country as big as Nigeria too, or any other part of the world. There are always two choices in front of you. The choice of you being a lifelong learner, or the choice of you being someone making wrong choices and being in a bad company. If you are a lifelong learner, that means most of the time you are either educating yourself by reading books, by being in places where you should be, educating yourself, improving yourself as a human to be able to serve your community, or you are in a bad company and you are prepared to starting from juvenile system, because there is a provision for everybody here. We have prison for juveniles from as young as 8, 9, 10-year-old. If you do something that you're not supposed to do, they're gonna lock you up. And if your offense or crime is something that is so bad that you probably took someone's life, you will be sentenced to the state facility once you turn 18 years old. You're going to serve your full time. Texas has the highest rate of incarceration per capita in the world. As of 2023 alone, there are over 400,000 human beings incarcerated in the state of Texas alone. So this is not a joke here, and that's why the rule of law is very, very important. So that choice is always in front of you. So in societal context, so to say, you have that choice of not doing something stupid, because if you do, the system is going to punish you. But overall, we do not have a high level of vandalization in the United States.
Okay, and that's his answer to the question. The third question I asked: how can correctional facilities balance punishment for vandalism with rehabilitation goals and promote a positive environment? And here is his answer to the question.
Excellent question. Question 3, that how can correctional facilities balance punishment for vandalism with rehabilitation goals and promote a positive environment? That's a very good question. There are many, many ways that can be done. First, by continuously promoting healthy choices to the inmates that are incarcerated. We call some system call them inmates, some call them offenders. Recently, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice changed it from inmate to residents. So they call them residents now officially, even though if you're old school, you're still going to call them either offenders or inmates. But what you can do to balance punishment with punishment for vandalism with rehabilitation goals is to continuously let them know that you have to continue to make positive choices. You have to continue educating them. You have to continue providing resource. It is not something that you can do on a one-time basis and you expect results, because these are folks that have already done something, or that have had a very troubled childhood. Some of them are still dealing with trauma, but that is a very deep discussion in itself. One of my own biggest research that I did since my second year of joining the agency was to find out why the state of Texas has so many young people or so many humans incarcerated. And apart from that, the rate of recidivism, which means that the amount of people that are released from prison and come back in less than 6 months is at about 66%, even though on the internet, it is said to be at about less than 30%. But honestly, I always say it, I did this research by myself by talking to inmates. An average between 10 inmates that you talk to, at least 8 of them have done time. I call it done time because they have been in and out for at least two to three times minimum. So that is a very big challenge. So for most of them, it's all they've known. So you have to continue to educate. I think that's what we have to continue to do. And I think any system, any government system that has a strong correctional institution that wants their criminal system to work better, to be able to help people that have chosen that wrong path to start heading towards the right path, is to continue to educate, to continue to provide them with resources, to continue to share with them things that they can do that can change their life course, that will make them to head in the right direction. So I think that's the best response I can give to that question. Excellent question.
Okay. Now let's move over to the fourth question. What support systems or programs can help inmates address underlying issues that may contribute to vandalism? Here is his answer.
What support systems or programs can help inmates address underlying issues that may contribute to vandalism? Education, period. Education. A lot of them are not educated. A lot of them did not grow up with a parent or even two-parent household. There are basic foundational education, foundational learning, foundational programming. I call it programming because either we like it or not, we are all programmed, right? That every individual must have in the course of growing up. While you were born as a baby, you're supposed to be raised and nurtured by your mother and your father. In the case of the United States, in most cases, it is not so. There is a big divide with different demography here. There are more people of African American orientation, African American demography that are in the prison system than the Caucasians, which is also the white folks. The Latinas, the Hispanics are the second that are that have the highest rate of incarceration. So what the support programs that you can do for them, that you can provide for them, is to continue to educate them. Most of these people, even though what they're supposed to have should be a dad and a mom, a father and a mother while growing up in the household, most of them don't have either of them. And in most cases, they don't have the fatherhood system. They don't have that paternal system that can tell them to stop when they need to be told, that need to guide them, that need to teach them basic surviving skill in the world while they are growing up. So they grow up without education at home or even school education. And if you're not educated, there is a very, very big opportunity for you to end up making bad choices. So I believe the support system or program that can help inmates to address underlying issue of vandalism is to continue to educate them, continue to expose them to education, continue to provide resources, which I believe the government is doing their best. In the prison system in Texas, if you come in, they are grouped in different categories. So if you are a G5 or an ADSEG inmate, ADSEG means administrative segregation. If you're an administrative segregation inmate, that means you're going to be on lockdown for minimum 21 to 22 hours a day. You're going to have about an hour to 2 hour recreation, but the rest of the time you're going to be locked up in your cell by yourself alone. So that means you are you are a highly violent inmate, so you cannot be released among the general population. And there is the G3 and G4s. Those ones are also violent, or they are keeping them from being prosecuted. Maybe they complain that somebody is trying to harass them or sexually assault them behind the prison walls. So they are given a different kind of categorization. So they are also not allowed to be out, but they are given a little bit much more exception than the G5 and the ADSEG. So they can be out for up to, I think, 12 to 13 hours. And there is the G2s, the general population. Those ones are able to move around. They're able to live in the same cell block or even in the same cell housing. We call it housing because they can be in the same cell. So you can have 2 inmates per room. So those are some of the things that the system here, the TDCJ has put in place to help these guys to reintegrate easily back into society, and for them to be able to continue to address any kind of underlying issues that they may have that could lead to vandalism or anything else. Your next question is, how does vandalism affect sense of safety and security within correctional facilities, and what measures can be taken to mitigate this impact? Again, I believe I've answered this question a few times. Yeah, what you just have to do is to continue to educate them. Continuous education, you cannot stop to letting them know that they are just 1 or 2 decisions away from changing the course of their life, even though they have already been punished by being incarcerated already. So keep educating them. Provide resources continuously. TDCJ, again, have tried. If you don't have enough education in the world before you are incarcerated, but you are a general population inmate, you actually have a chance of passing your GED, which equals the senior school certificate education that we have in Nigeria, SSCE, or high school living certification, but they call it GED out here. So you have a chance of studying that. But for you to be able to have access to class, you have to be in good standing. That means you do not have any past offense. You are not currently, you have not been written up by any of the officers. You have not committed any offense in the last 6 months at least, and you are in good standing. Also, if you don't want to go to school, because for some, they don't want the education. If what you want is for you to learn a trade. TDCJ also offers several vocational educational pathways. You can learn absolutely anything. For example, in the United States, not the entire United States, in the state of Texas, most, in fact, not most, all the license plate tags that vehicles you drive in the state of Texas are produced by inmates. License plate tags that we use to put on our vehicles is produced by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice inmates. So prisoners make those items. You can learn that the tires, the big tires that big vehicles use, like we call them lorries back home, like the big vehicle that are out here. We inmates produce them as well. And even if those tires have faults, they also help to fix them and make them to work. You can learn HVAC, which is heat and what is the other thing they call it, which is heat and AC repairs. They call it HVAC. You can learn auto mechanic. There is so many opportunities for you, but you have to be willing to change your mindset, to change your ways and earn that sport to be able to get that education. But those are some of the ways that the agency are continuously making ways to help these inmates. Lastly, in this one, so can I share any insight on how vandalism relates to recidivism rate and the challenges faced by ex-offenders upon release? The vandalism rate, I don't think is as much, but what is much is repeated offenders committing the same crime, which stems from selling of drugs, aggravated robbery, assault on family member. Such offenses are much more the reason why recidivism is high than vandalism. So there are many other issues that inmates commit over and over that continually send them back to prison. And as I said in my book that I just authored, that I released in April, which detailed about 7 years of my experience working in the agency, titled The Gray and the White Line, because I titled the book The Gray and the White Line because in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the officers' uniform is gray, while the inmates put on white uniform. So I titled the book The Gray and White Line because I was working on that white thin line as an officer in the system. As I documented there are many issues that I observed that lead to recidivism rates to be so high. As I've said earlier in this interview, the rate at the moment in Texas alone is at about 66%. Out of 10 inmates that are released every 6 months, 8 of them always end up coming back. I think you can actually say that's almost 80%, but let us say it is about 66%. So what I decided to do, and that I'm doing with my nonprofit organization, is to catch some of these young men before they go into prison system at all, before they start any form of at-risk behavior at all. So, but the underlying challenge is the lack of role models, lack of mentors that can help some of these young men and women to navigate the very rough and challenging path of teenage years into adulthood, right? There are not many male role models, especially male, because America is a working system. Up until I got here as a Nigerian that I've worked in broadcast industry for almost over 11 years before immigrating to the United States, I have never seen a system that works as much as people do out here. Most of the time, you work between 12 to 13 to 14 hours a day, including your commuting time. And by the time you get home, you are tired. And also, the price of living is very, very high. So it takes most likely a two household income to be able to have a sustainable life but most families here, most individuals here don't believe in marriage. That's another issue entirely. Almost 6 or 7 out of 10 African American demography are not, they are unmarried. So if in like 10 homes, if you look at 10 homes, only about 4 people are married, are living husband and wife. And imagine what happened to the remaining household that have children. And most of the time, it is the mother, it is the single moms that are much more impacted. So there are many underlying issues that contribute to rate of recidivism beyond vandalism. So one of them is lack of role models. The other one that I feel is the educational system does not allow what it does to some of us when we're growing up. For example, in schools, a teacher cannot say some things to students. You can't even spank them. You can't even spank them like they did to us while we were in school. I remember how many times I got whooped by my mathematics teacher, by my biology teacher, by my what is that other course called again? English teacher, because I wasn't a very smart boy when I was in secondary school. I have to say that. But I remember how many times I got beaten in school and nothing happened. My mom is not going to say anything. My dad isn't going to say anything. But here you have to mind everything you say to anybody's child. And even though it is a country that says in God we trust, and there are many, and absolutely, America is a religious country, but the Bible doctrine that is in Proverbs that said if you beat a child with a rod, that is not going to die, but you are going to help him or her to shape their life. That is not being followed. And I also feel that the other thing that is the big contributing factor. The other thing is that the their two-parent household is almost in non-existence, right? It's almost non-existent. So the mother that is raising a son or 2 sons or 3 sons is working 2-3 jobs, and most of the time the sons or son or daughters are being looked at by the daycare or by family member, and most things go wrong at those times. So these are the things that are much more issues that need to be looked at beyond vandalism.
Okay. Mr. Bayonle Arashi answered almost 3 questions in that one. Yes, he answered our question 4. What support systems or program can help inmates address underlying issues that may contribute to vandalism? I think he also answered our question 5. How does vandalism affect the sense of safety and security within correctional facilities, and what current measures can be taken to mitigate this impact? He answered question 6 on that voice note. Can you share any insights on how vandalism relates to recidivism rates, and the challenges faced by ex-offenders upon release? I think the next question he's going to answer now is, what recommendations would you make for policymakers or correctional administrators to address vandalism in a way that promotes rehabilitation, public safety, and societal welfare?
What recommendations would you make for policymakers or correctional administrators to address vandalism in a way that promotes rehabilitation, public safety, and societal welfare? Well, my recommendation first and foremost will be to have well-trained officers, well-trained supervisors, for them to understand that their job is not to punish inmates, is not to punish offenders. Their job is to help them to be reintegrated back into society. I think training of staff should be like the major key for officers to know their position, for the supervisors to know their position, and for skill allocations, skill ideas to be implemented into the correctional facilities, just as the way it is in this part of the world. For example, like I said, the license plate tag that everyone use to put on their vehicle here in the state of Texas is made by inmates. Empower these guys while they're incarcerated. Let them learn a skill or two while they are in there, not just to pack them in one room like we see on TV. We don't even have images of Nigerian prison or African prison out there as often as possible, but you can easily search on Google and look at images or video of inmates in the Texas prisons, right? So I think that's one of the ways we can change it. Training, continue to educate the staff members and the supervisors, provide skill acquisition program for inmates so that when some of them that do not have any kind of skill or education, when they come back into the society, they have something to offer. They can develop their trade that they have learned or they have earned while incarcerated and build a business around it. There are few instances here in the US of former inmates that have built business. In fact, in most industry that are I can't remember the exact name now due to a brain fog suddenly, but they are some of the people that drive that transport items from state to state, from town to town, that drive the 18-wheelers are mostly formerly incarcerated folks. And they get this special kind of driver's license while incarcerated so that when they come out, they can be able to get a job with that. And some of them earn as much as $55,000, $60,000 a year. So for some of them that are petty thieves, that are aggravated robbers in the past, they can make some decent living for themselves, even though for most of them, it takes them at least to be in the system between 2 to 3 times before they realize they can do this thing. But it does happen. So little by little, we have a few of them that do not go back. And that's why I put the rate at about 66% in terms of recidivism. So put those little things in place and let the rule of law, more importantly, let the rule of law be strong. Let it be able to affect anyone. Let no one be above the law in any country. So if the rule of law can affect the rich and the poor, I also believe that can have a very big impact in the country and the nation at large.
So that was his answer to that question. Now he answered more, or should I say more questions as it concerns this topic. Stay tuned. The next question he answered, I asked rather, is how do inmates perceive vandalism within the facility, and what role does peer pressure or gang dynamics play? Here is his answer. Let me get it. Give me some time. Here is it.
How do inmates perceive vandalism within the facility? What role does peer pressure or gang dynamics play? Can you share any insight on how vandalism affects inmate relationships and facility culture? How do inmates perceive vandalism? They know that if they vandalize anything, they're going to get punished, period. That's how simple it is. If you commit any sort of vandalism over here in this part of the world, you're going to get punished. You're going to get punished with as much as having additional 1 to 5 year sentence added upon the added to the time you are currently serving. That is how difficult and how much the law is in this part of the world. Insights on how vandalism affects inmate relationships and facility. Well, I mean, there are gang members everywhere. That's not something that I think the correctional institution can stop. And I also feel this is lack to knowledge. This is due to lack of knowledge, because what can a gang do for you apart from telling you that they offer you protection? In some cases, it happens. I was not deep into that part because there is a specific department that handle that. They are called STG in Texas. The STG sergeant and crew handles anything that has to do with gangs. And even though I have dealt with one or two cases in the past about gang members, but really there is a countermeasure by the state by TDCJ to counter any form of gang related issues here. So you can't really get your way out. If you've been getting away with it, someone will eventually snitch on you, and we will get you, and you will be punished by either moved away from the current facility to somewhere very, very far, because Texas is big. You can be moved from the south to the north part of Texas, that your family will have to drive a couple of thousands of miles to be able to see you, or they upgrade your status. If you are a G2 that you can be able to move around with other inmates, they make you to become G5, and that means you're going to be locked up in your cell for 22 to 23 hours a day. There are many ways that the agency is tackling that when it comes to the area of gang relationship and peer pressure. Peer pressure for me, I look beyond people that are behind those walls already. I look at the outside, the people that are outside, the young teenagers, the 14, 15, 16-year-old that is building muscle, that his hormone is high, controlling himself, that thinks he can fight, that wants to make the quick money because an uncle on the street sells drug and can afford a lot of things he can't afford. And those are the ones I feel for a lot. And those are the ones that I'm working with. And those are the ones that I'm continuously looking to target, continually looking to help them to not fall into the crack of crime, into the crack of incarceration. Because overall, the summary that I put in my book is, once you are incarcerated, it is a very bad chain. It is a deep hole. It is a hell hole. I'm going to call it that is very hard to come out of. So I'm always trying. My work is for me to continue to provide the education, the information, the mentorship that don't do it, by addressing this issue of peer pressure. And that's what it is most of the time. The young men and women want to buy the latest iPhone. They want to drive the 2025 Chevy or whatever car that trips them, or they want to be able to take their girlfriend out. So they feel robbing that quick corner store or the gas station with a weapon, and that's another issue entirely. Gone. Texas is a free gun state. So once you are at the age of 18 and you don't have a crime record, you can actually own a weapon of your own, a gun of your own. Once you are 18 and you are not incarcerated, you have not been incarcerated, you do not have a flag on your record, you can buy a gun and carry. You just have to have the license. That's how it is here in Texas. It is the law. That's not something I can change or that I made, but that's the law. But making people to be aware of the impact those things can have on them is the job I have decided to do for the rest of my life.
Okay. Now we move over to the next question I asked. What training do correctional officers receive to handle vandalism and other forms of property damage? And here is his answer.
What training do correctional officers receive to handle vandalism and other forms of property damage? Absolutely. For you to be a correctional officer in the state of Texas, you will first and foremost not have a criminal record, period. You cannot be on any form of drugs. It doesn't matter. Alcohol they allow, as long as you don't do it. You're not being silly with it. But you cannot be a weed smoker. You cannot have any kind of drug in you, because you're going to be drug tested before you are given, before you are employed. And then beyond that, there's a 6 weeks academy training that you have to go. It is during the academy that you will be impacted with everything that you need to know about the prison system. Even though, as I said in my book, what you are being taught in the academy most of the time is theoretical and does not necessarily work for you practically behind the walls, but it gives you an idea of what you are going to encounter, what is going to happen on the job. And also, there are a lot of mentors. I was also privileged to be a mentor before I left. I left the state on March 31st, 2025, after almost 8 years of service to the state of Texas. So you get a lot of training that will guide you. And when you come on the facility, you are handed over to the field training officer, FTO, for another 2 to 3 weeks of training to make you to be acquainted to the facility, to get you introduced to how that facility that you are going to be working in operates. They're going to introduce you to the SOPs, the standard operating procedure of that particular facility. I was at a youth facility to start with called the Clemens Unit, where they bring the YOPs, inmates that are just turning 18. They bring them to that. That was the unit I started from, and there was always a fight. The oldest inmate at my first unit will be at about 22 years old, and the youngest about 18 years old, 18 years and 1 day old. So they are between the ages of 18 and 22. A lot of energy, a lot of power, a lot of things they want to do, they want to burn, and that takes a lot of courage and a lot of mental effort to be able to deal with them. I was there for a couple of months before I was transferred to the terror unit. Terror unit happens to be a medical facility, which means if an inmate from 5 to 10 miles from my unit is sick or has an emergency, they're going to be shipped down to my unit. So it's all bunk area. So there's a lot of training, both before, during, and even after you come on the unit. They will, after you leave the FTO's training, you'll be handed to a mentor to also work with you. So there is a lot of training that help officers to be able to do their job properly. How do staff members document and report incidents on vandalism? Well, you call it vandalism, but there are many other issues that happens in the prison system. There is issue of rape, there is issue of property damage, there is issue of inmates not listening to officers. There are so many things, and there is a law. There is a rule for that. There is a paper for you to fill. There is an offense report that if an inmate commits something, if an officer gives a directive and the inmate does not follow, it gets a case, and the case goes to a sergeant. A sergeant do an immediate interview, forward it to the lieutenant. The lieutenant forward it to the captain, and the captain can take the inmate to court. There is a court in between the prison system. It's a very interesting thing, but there is enough resources that makes the system to work seamlessly with the way it works in Texas, that makes officers to be able to do their job, that makes the supervisors to be able to do their job, that holds the inmates accountable for them to be able to follow the rule and order in behind the prison system. How does the
Okay, now Mr. Bayonle answered two questions actually. Yes, yeah, he answered the question of how do staff members document and report incidents of vandalism and what procedures are in place for investigation. So let's move over to the next question. How does the design and infrastructure of a correctional facility impact the livelihood of vandalism? I'll repeat that question again. How does the design and infrastructure of a correctional facility impact the likelihood of vandals? And here is what he has to say on that.
The design and infrastructure of How does the design and infrastructure of the correctional facility impact the likelihood of vandalism? Well, the prison system here is a different game on its own. It's actually one of the most protected facility in the world. There is a lot of security staff on duty at all times. There is the perimeter check, there's the perimeter officers, and then there is a last line of defense, which is the mobile patrol. And in every of the perimeter, there are weapons in there, guns, AK-47 and pistols. So if an inmate tries to escape, we have an order to shoot to stop that inmate. And shoot to stop, which means whatever it takes to stop you is what that perimeter officer has to do. And sometimes it doesn't end very well for the inmate. So you cannot make a silly attempt to try to escape through the wall. You could either get electrocuted or you get shot. As simple as that. And if you happen to find a way to escape the wall, there is a last line of defense, which is the mobile patrol that can take you down, which is always someone that is in a vehicle carrying a loaded weapon. So the system is properly designed to mitigate against any kind of structural damage or operational brokenness. You cannot, if you break operation for any reason, you will be punished for it. So the system has a very, very strong design for security in terms of infrastructure to be able to defend itself. Are there any design features or security measures that can help prevent or minimize vandalism? There's only so much I can share, even though I'm no longer in the system. But what I can tell you is that when you are incarcerated, I will always advise that if you have a family member that is incarcerated or that is about to be, tell them to just serve their time and be able to go home. Because anything other than that will not end in a way that they will actually be willing to have gone through, because you will pay the price. So just do your time and go home, because you can barely beat the system. Over the span that the Texas Department of Criminal Justice has been in operation for well over 100 years, I think we've only had one escape that they've not been able to find, one escapee that we've not been able to find, and that person has been deemed to be dead. If you escape from prison in Texas, you will be found. You'll be found. It doesn't matter how long it takes, because there will be a lot of people hunting for you. So the system and the infrastructure is very strong. The rule of law is strong. There are strong measures in between the facility. There are strong rules to be followed. Officers are well trained. The supervisors know their job. So overall, it is a very, very strong system that is working, that has worked, and I don't think any form of vandalization will be tolerated.
Okay, he answered that question. He answered, in the process of answering one question, he answered another, which is, are there any design features or security measures that can help prevent or minimize vandalism? Now, another question he answered is, can participation in rehabilitation programs such as counseling or education reduce the likelihood of vandalism among inmates? This is what he has to say.
Can participation in rehabilitation programs such as counseling or education reduce the likelihood of vandalism among inmates? Absolutely, yes. There are a lot of rehabilitation programs that the agency put in place, a lot of them, including church services. Inmates have a chance to go to church on Sundays. There are many religious organizations that send volunteers into the prison system or on Sundays to allow the inmate to be able to go to church and worship their God. There is also provision for the Muslims to also pray on Fridays during the Ramadan period. They give them opportunity to practice. It's a properly well-run system that makes basic things available. And I think the biggest challenge that the agency is actually having is the choices that the people that are incarcerated are making, and that's the big issue. When you are incarcerated, it is very important for you to continue to make the right choices that will help you to find a way to be a better person. Just if you make a mistake and you were caught up in something bad for once, if you get punished for it, you should be able to leave. And even at the court level, most of the judges are very, 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 very soft on these young men and women. If you are a first-time offender, most of the time, they give you what they call a suspended sentence. That means you are sentenced, but you are not going to go to prison. They will warn you and they will give you probation that between now and the next 6 months or 3 months or 1 year, sometimes you cannot afford to commit any other crime. If you break that opportunity, you're going to be locked up. Also, if you're a first-time inmate and you're sentenced, maybe you have a 5-year sentence and you serve 1.5, 18 months, 2 years out of that 5 years, most of the time you are paroled. The state will let you go out, and they will only give you the condition of you reporting to your parole officer 3 months, 6 months, depends on the agreement at the point of your parole, that you should keep in touch with that parole officer until you are off parole. But most of the time, these inmates always end up going back to crime, and they ruin that parole opportunity most of the time. So these are some of the rehabilitation programs that the agency is making available. Also, as I said at the beginning, there is a GED program, there is vocational education program, there is counseling session. There are so many resources that you can use to be able to become a better person while serving time. And I've seen a few people actually turn their life around. Very few, but it does happen that rehabilitation can happen while serving time.
Okay, let's move over to the next question, which was asked. How do correctional facilities balance punishment for vandalism with rehabilitation goals? I don't know whether he answered this. I've lost track. Wait, let me see.
Based on my time as a correctional officer, what trends or patterns did I observe in vandalism, and how did I address them?
Okay, wait. This is a whole lot of question. I think he usually answers in this interview. Our guest answers like two questions at one, and this quite got me confused. Okay, now this is another question which he was answering before I caught that. Can you share a notable experience or incident of vandalism that had a significant impact on you or the facility? The second question that followed that, based on your time as a correctional officer, what trends or patterns did you observe in vandalism, and how did you address them? Here is what he has to say.
Based on my time as a correctional officer, what trends or patterns did I observe in vandalism, and how did I address them? That's an interesting question. Trends. Again, there is no trend. Image is going to do whatever they want to do anyway. Patterns. Well, the biggest pattern observation is bad choices. I was one of those officers that when I got to the TDCJ code, I felt I have to be a different kind of officer because the fact that for me as a former broadcaster, someone that worked in a totally different world, and then relocating to the United States, not being able to find a job that is fitting to my experience in broadcasting, and have to go into paramilitary system, I decided to just be different, to use and the knowledge that I have garnered over the years as a broadcaster, traveling across the world to over 17 countries, covering football as a professional. And also, before I came to the United States, I started my soccer and football nonprofit organization, helping young boys and girls to take them to youth tournament overseas. I feel that my calling has always been more or less like a counselor, to help young people to share the experience of what I have learned over the years. So for me, I have I've always looked at the better side of any of the individual that I come in contact with. So even if I see you misbehaving, like for example, one of the things that it was my pet peeve as an officer is if you are incarcerated and I find out that you smoke, because some of them smoke K2, they smoke weed. Officers bring it in for them, both uniform and non-uniform officers. That's one of the challenges that the agency has that I've not been able to resolve. Some of them give the reason that the salary is not enough. I don't think so. I just think a lot of people are greedy to just want to do something to earn extra, because you can always work overtime. But that's not the issue. But if I see you that you are incarcerated and you are still smoking, for me, it was a problem. I will believe you are not a very serious person. And I will ask you, and I will always give you an instance that ask yourself that question. If you are in here, locked up, incarcerated, an inmate wearing white, and I am telling you what to do, I'm telling you, you can only go to shower at this time, you can only go to eat at this time, you can sleep only at this time, why would you give me such access, such power over you by continuously making poor decisions? So I've always been that kind of person, but those are some of the patterns that I've seen of continuous poor choices. People still they play cards. You cannot play card in prison. It is called, when you do that, you have a contraband. If you play card, that's a contraband. If I catch you with smoking paraphernalia, that's a contraband. If I catch you having sexual interaction with another man or female, I have seen that. That's an issue. That's a big issue. That's a level 1 issue. You're actually going to be upgraded. Your status will be upgraded. And those are some of the things that I have seen. Consistent misbehavior, consistent poor choices are some of the things that I have seen that I think, based on my experience, have been the pattern of what goes on with people that are in there. And that's why I decided that it is best for me to actually reach out to the ones that have not been corrupted, that have not decided to actually ruin their entire life by being incarcerated. Because I always give them an instance that if I was born in this country, born with an American passport, with me as a young man, I probably wouldn't, not even probably, I would not be walking behind the prison walls, right? I would not. There's no way. But for me at that time, it was a means, right? And I'm glad it was because I did such a job that I have an opportunity to be on a podcast like this, to be able to share my experience. So those are some of the things that I've observed and that I have addressed and continuously addressed. I have taken it upon myself to not go serve the ones at the state level prison, but I've continuously gone to Fort Bend Juvenile Detention Center, Harris County Juvenile Detention Center here in Texas, continuously talk and mentor young boys and girls that are currently incarcerated that are not an adult yet. They are between ages 8, 9, 10, and 17 and 17 years old. So because at that level, I believe you can still be able to help them. But once they are sentenced to the state facility, it's almost over.
Okay. Now, Mr. Bayonle Arashi has really given us a whole lot of answers and insights as it concerns how vandalism is being treated in the United States of America with specificness, or should I say with specification, to Texas. As earlier said, he served with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, which he abbreviates as the TDCJ. So he ended everything with this.
My parting shot will be this. If you are a young boy or girl that have the opportunity to be listening to me or to have access to this podcast, I want to give you a few advice. Number one, find a mentor early in life. Your mentor does not have to be someone that you have met physically one-on-one. The importance of a mentor can never be overemphasized. A mentor will make you to take a leap of 10 years in about a year or two. You can meet a mentor through their book. You can meet a mentor through their video. Some of you that are born and growing up in this current age of artificial intelligence, of technology, you are incredibly blessed and lucky. You can literally sit in your house, anywhere in the world, with that powerful device in your hand. If you are using an Android phone or an iPhone, let me tell you something. The phone you have in your hand as of today is much more powerful than what President George Bush had to be able to run the free world. That's how powerful the telephone you have in your hand today is. So use that technology wisely. You can Google videos. You can watch videos on YouTube. You can Google question. You can download the Chat GPT and ask it any question about your passion. But remember, the beginning of everything is to find a mentor early in life, a mentor that will guide you, a mentor that you will be willing to serve so that it can also in return help you to navigate the tough part of life. That's the first thing I'm going to share with you. The second thing is for you to be open to knowledge. Continue to search. Remain curious. Continue to read books. Read everything that you can read especially if you are so lucky enough to find your passion and purpose early in life. Read as much as you can about that topic. Readers are leaders. I'm sure you have had that before and over. Myself, that I'm talking to you, I had a very high privilege of being mentored by a man where I'm going to share with you one of my mentors, apart from the Lord Jesus Christ, is Dr. Miles Monroe. He's late now. He's from the great country of Bahamas. That man actually helped me to be able to surpass some of the toughest time of my life by teaching me what it means to be a man, what it takes to be a man, how to find my purpose. You can also make him your mentor. And if you want me to be your mentor, absolutely, it will be my pleasure. It's very easy. You can find me on all my social media platforms at Bayonle Arashi. It is Bayonle Arashi, as pronounced BAYONLEARASHI. And you will be glad you did, on all platforms: Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever they use out there. You'll find me, you'll find my work. You can also find my books. I've written 2 books. One about my experience working in the football industry for over 2 decades. It's an experience for you if you're an aspiring football player that is trying to navigate the path of you being a professional. And even if you play any sport at all and you're looking for a way, find the book. It is titled Roadmap to a Successful Football Career. If you don't find the paperback, there is a digital version online that you can download for less than $3. And you can read it and use the experience in it. Some of the phases you are going to go through in life, I have already gone through them, and I have shared all that information with you for free. Also, my latest book, The Gray and White Line, is also available in paperback and digital version. You should also read that. But remember, find a mentor very early in life. Be open to learning. Remain curious. Continue to learn. Continue to seek and find your purpose. Find your purpose in life. And you can only find your purpose in life if you have God as the background, as the foundation of everything. You need to have a spiritual practice. There has to be something. There has to be something that you believe in, something much more powerful than yourself. That is your creator. It does not matter what religion you believe in. If you are a Christian, pray often, read your Bible, find your own knowledge in the Bible. The Bible is the most powerful book that has been written ever, and is the book that with the highest sales in the entire world. If you're a Muslim, also pray to your God. You can always find meaning in friendship, in mentor, but make sure you have a spiritual practice. That's going to be my parting shot. It's been my pleasure sharing this opportunity with you and this space with you, and I hope to see you guys hopefully one-on-one soon. But it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and God bless you all. Bye-bye now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bayonle Arashi, for sparing your time to give us answers to these questions. Okay, I would like to say one or two things before I proceed to the rest of the show. Crime doesn't pay. They usually say 99 days for the thief, 1 day for the owner. What we tried knowing is how much vandalism is being punished in a crime as organized as it's always positioned itself, the United States of America, with particular to Texas. I earlier say that we are going to be having this person, and to the glory and grace of God, we had him on the show today. All thanks be to God. So crime doesn't pay. If a great country, if a very powerful country like the United States of America can punish vandals by sentencing them, putting them in prison and stuff like that, how much more to an African country such as Nigeria, and maybe from any other place you are listening to me, because I know I ought to have listeners from Australia, I ought to have listeners from Ghana, I ought to have listeners from different places. So how much more do people get punished? How much more an African country? Stay away from crime. Make sure you do, no matter what it takes. Okay, moving on. I would love to say one or two things. This part 2 of the vandalism we were supposed to have a Nigeria divisional police officer, Nigerian divisional police officer. I wrote a letter to the Commissioner of Police, Anambra State. I don't have his name now, but I sent a letter to his desk on Wednesday, June 25, 2025. The letter I haven't gotten any response, and I haven't gone back. I must say it with honor, honesty. I haven't gone back because I have a couple of projects in my hands. I'm writing my final year project. Yes, I'm a music student of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. I stay in Awka. So that's where I am trying to navigate life, and also trying to get a bachelor's degree in music. Yes, I'm a music student. So I wrote it. It was stamped received. It was given back to me. It was given a copy of it was given to me, and I'm with it as I'm with you right now. But I will try the very much best I can to make sure that I get a Nigeria divisional police officer on the show. A couple of questions are tailored, and we need what I do, what the content I do here is edutainment. I educate and also entertain. So with that, I will try my very much best to make sure that it happens. Now, maybe so many of you don't know, but if you are following, that's why I urge you to follow the Flamise RPR podcast on not just Facebook. Follow my Facebook, follow the Flamise RPR podcast on Facebook, follow my Facebook account, Flamise RPR, follow Flamise RPR, that's on Instagram. Go on WhatsApp, it's the Flamise RPR podcast updates. It's a channel, actually. The moment you type, you follow. You type it and you follow. You can also send an email via the Flamise RPR podcast at gmail.com. I always check my mails. Every other information you need is actually online. Just follow the Flamise RPR podcast on these different info channels on social media, and you will get info, direct source from me. The Flamise RPR podcast is available on Spotify, Podcast Addict, YouTube, Amazon Music, Audible, YT Music. It's on different places. I can't even count how many places my podcast must have got into right now. The Flamise RPR podcast must have got into right now. So make sure you take your time to listen. If what I do interests you, it's also I am open for sponsorship. Reach out to me via the channels. Go to my Facebook account. You'll see a phone number there. It's also WhatsApp. You can use it to contact me. Yes. If for sponsorship, I'm open for sponsorship too. With that, I say very much thank you to you for taking your time to listen. Thank you very much for everything you do. Thank you very much, Mr. Bayonle Arashi, for bringing out time to answer our questions as it concerns this, and also giving us insights, professional insights as a correctional officer that once worked, as a former correctional officer that once worked with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you very much, my listeners. From me to you is thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks for listening.